So, if you'd like to start, what is your name and perhaps what you spend the most time doing?
I am Hutch, and I spend the most time exploring possibilities and potentiality in reality.
So, what have you explored recently?
Um, I've noticed a lot of synchronicities, things happening upon thought.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of step back and meditate, and I think to myself, in normal scientific structure and construct, it doesn't really leave breathing room to explore anything deeper. So that's really a paradox that I like to explore.
Wow. Okay, so that was really deep right off the back. So,
You asked for it.
oh, yeah, that's amazing. So, can you take me what it looks like to meditate? So, how do you meditate?
Well, I started sort of years ago, more just I was so tired that. Have you ever been in a state where you're physically exhausted, but it's really hard to sleep?
Um, so I've been blessed with being able to sleep really, really easily.
Really?
That's
Are
like a
you
super,
serious?
yeah, it takes
Wow.
nothing for me. That's why I love the idea of living in New York City or something because I can sleep through anything.
Really?
So I haven't had that problem.
Very nice. Well, I was just sort of in one of those states. I had a lot of things to do, and I wasn't able to get sleep. So perceived,
Mhm.
and I sort of went into like, I think it's called like a theta state. It's sort of a mixture of awareness and a waking state and sleep state. So I started exploring there, and it was just beautiful colors, visions, um, sounds, and stuff that weren't familiar to me in dream state nor waking state. So that was sort of the area where I was like so curious. And that, I think that, along with being a child, thinking, is this it? I mean, in school they said we came from cave people, and
There's got to be more to the world, more to the
that's
universe,
as a kid I
more
thought
to
that.
explore.
Yeah, and so I think that just initial intrigue as a child just catapulted into things that I do. So when I set out, I more so don't have plans, as if when I arrive at doing a podcast, which is enjoyable.
Yeah,
So in an intuitive state of traveling and traversing um, the area, Norfolk,
right.
um, it presents really neat opportunities without the attachment to plan.
A free spirit.
Yeah.
So, do you mind if I touch back? There's something that you mentioned that I've only heard said once. What is the state you were saying of right between sleep and
No, I
awareness?
could be incorrect. You might have some viewers that correct me on this, and that's good. But I believe it's sort of a sort of state that your brain gets into, and it has wave patterns.
Mhm.
It's called the theta wave patterns. And it's sort of a, like, for me, the experiential aspect of it was that I actually was in between dream and awake. Like, I knew I was in my bed,
Wow.
but it was splashed with the colors and paradoxes of dream state. Do you remember your dreams?
So it's so interesting because the only time I've heard that phrase is when I was looking up things about lucid dreaming because I lucid dream as well. I don't know if you do
Oh,
that.
yes. Oh,
So,
absolutely.
and here's the thing, that is almost, I never speak about it because no one else that I've really encountered
Does
lucid
it?
dreams.
Really?
So I don't want to sound like sound like a crazy person, but yeah. And
What's one that stands out to you?
oh my God, I have several. So I love to talk to you and listen about your stories, but I love talking about my lucid dreams as well.
Oh, they're neat.
But I've had a couple. I think in a general sense, what I like to explore is the depth of feelings that I can have, like the depth of emotions that I don't feel that often. I think the most real emotion that I have in a lucid dream is fear. I
Mm.
feel like my heartbeat really speeds up, and I feel like I feel fear in a way that I've never felt in while being awake. I think some of those are like primal fears, like when I was running from animals that were chasing me or
Yeah.
something. I
Now,
think
at
it's
that state when those
hmm
animals were chasing you,
hmm
were you actually aware that you were in a dream?
Yeah, and it was and it's hard to explain because when I would first start lucid dreaming, I would try and do all these crazy things, and my dream would really just fall apart. So I found the most enjoyable thing to do when I was lucid dreaming is just just look around and just observe what's going on. And I explored beyond that, and I started talking to the people in my dreams, and those were really, really, really fascinating experiences. Um,
Insightful. Were there any connections
oh,
from those states from when you were awake that you could kind of like say, oh, like ask a question like, were those connected in any way? Or a
so
vision or a sign or a situation that reoccurred in a deja vu moment?
I've never had anything like that, and I've always kind of been almost like hopeful that something like that would happen. But to be completely honest, nothing like that has happened. I've had some really, really interesting ones though. Um, and it's quite funny. So I'm very new into this podcast series,
Oh,
but
really?
yeah,
Well, welcome.
you are actually the second physical guest for this series. I've had several podcasts.
Are you sure I'm physical?
Well, no,
I'm
you
just
know.
kidding.
But I would ask people in my dreams what their earliest memory was, and I would just listen to what they have to say, because a lot of times it was gibberish in a lucid dream. A lot of times it was just they weren't even words, but
Wow.
sometimes they would give me like a real in-depth first memory, and I'm just like, where the fuck did that come from? Where did this memory of theirs come from? And it was really interesting. But I think the one that scared me, the one that I'll probably get goosebumps talking about, is I was just super curious at one point, and I used to do this thing when I was lucid dreaming, and I would eavesdrop on people in my dreams just to hear what they were talking about. And one time I was in the back seat of a car, and I was just eavesdropping on the two characters in my dream in front of me, and there was a woman in the passenger seat, and she just started whispering, and I just leaned in closer to hear what she was saying, and I heard her say, "He can hear us," and she looked directly at me, and as soon as like we locked eyes, the whole dream just freaking exploded. Like not,
Wow.
and but the crazy part is what happened after that. So after that happened, every time I would have a dream, whether it was a lucid dream or a regular dream, there was no people in the dreams.
Really?
Everybody disappeared, and then
Was there any animals?
I didn't even notice that. I just noticed there were
So
no
it was just
people.
you.
And then people reappeared, but they were silent. They would not speak to me. And I
You know,
look my.
you're
I
getting
swear to
goosebumps.
God,
Hey,
it's
podcast listeners, he is officially
yeah.
goosebumped out
It
right now. Actually, it's to the point where I'm
yeah.
slightly getting them.
That
Very cool.
that is 100% a real story, and I have
Wow.
no explanation for it. I wish I could say it was something deep. I don't know. It just freaked me out, to be
Well,
honest.
one thing that is a possibility is that dream state is, um, of course, there's a lot of biological reasons we go to sleep to
Hmm.
repair our cellular structures and so forth and so on. But but also, what if, just as a question, just food for thought, what if your dream states were versions of parallel timelines or realities that you're experiencing you to a greater extent because you can lucid dream. A
Yeah.
lot of people, when they dream as they don't have any sort of free will in those dreams to listen to a whisperer
Right.
or to make a certain decision to eat a certain flavor of ice cream.
Or to even be able to think that that's a possibility while
Right.
dreaming. You
They
know.
may, yeah, they may not be aware that they're inside of a dream, but you being able to do that, you get to explore dreams in different ways. And I guess with the noise, we'll get a little
Oh, it's got
closer.
really good audio.
Good, good, good.
Really good.
But possibly, and this is the point that stems from my childhood curiosity, is what if those were actually timelines and versions and realities all, let's say, hundreds, like if you've ever had a confusing dream where one room will like almost shapeshift or become, it'll be like your house but it's a different room in your house, or you're at your friend's house and you know you're there but it's a different reconfiguration of the home and it leads to different areas. What if all of those were just interconnected data sets that you're retrieving from multiple various timelines and realities? And I remember sort of thinking that as I started getting into the age of 12, 13, I was nerding out on computers,
Right.
still a computer nerd.
Hmm.
So, I started seeing the world as what, like, well, what are the computations? And then with the development of AI
Hmm.
and quantum computing and quantum physics, it's really blown a hole in the old narrative. Of course,
I would say like an understanding of the whole world is different now.
it is.
And number one, there's access to more information, access to more people that they can have different opinions. But yeah, expand on that for sure.
Oh, for sure. So once that happened and that development occurred, and it is going at such a phenomenal rate, for a person like me with that childhood curiosity, of course, I utilize it. Um, so, for example, no, it's not very popular yet, but it will be quantum computing.
Quantum computing.
So, of course, in binary, ones and zeros, I've written some Python programs, but I recently, when I say recently, it's probably been about a year and a half ago, but wrote my first quantum computer code.
Really?
Yeah.
What did it do?
Nothing too much. So it proves out all probabilities in a single, and our linear time thinking, which is another thing we needed to address, is time and the construct of time. But but quantum computers don't see time the same way as humans do in a linear path.
Okay.
So in a causality reality that humans perceive that they live in, they have to do an action in order for an event to occur. Now, in the quantum realm, all of those action and events are simultaneous to one another.
Right. So they're not dependent. They happen at the same time.
There's no causality in that respect. Now, through intention, resonance, and other variables that aren't so measurable in the paradigm that we're currently in, which will change soon. But in that current paradigm, the linear time construct has taken over the masses to where some entities live literally by the clock.
Right.
By the clock.
I mean, I would say our whole world is structured that way.
Most so. I mean, I can avoid it in some respects,
Right.
but also, you know, I have to work today at such and such a clock.
Right.
Okay. So, but time is not to be looked at as a living circumstance. It's a tool.
It's useful.
It's
absolutely useful.
I
to
think it's
segment
neat.
time.
I mean,
Yeah.
like if me and you arranged to do a podcast next month at a certain time, same place,
It's useful.
it's very useful because we know that date, that calendar date and time directs us in guidance as a coordinate point, so we can interact with each other.
Right.
So it's pretty neat. I feel like I maybe veered off of the topic, but at the same time, it's easy to,
Yeah.
because it feels like there's so many rabbit holes that you can go down.
An infinite amount.
Infinite amount.
There's so many that you touched on. It just sparked my curiosity. So speaking of curiosity, you're one of the first people I've ever heard speak of curiosity in that way, and saying that you utilize curiosity. What does that mean?
Well, there's an energy in it. There's a lot of potential in those in betweens. Humans live in a yes or no, this or that, left or right type of decision thinking path. But in a quantum thinking path, all those potential threads and occurrences are happening simultaneously. What that suggests is that humans have the potential, the ability to have more say into those patterns or thinking patterns that arrive at destinations like podcasts in the park.
Yeah. You could easily said no. You could have well, you said
At
yes.
that point, I could have, yeah.
But maybe there would have been a different timeline where you said no, and we would have never had this conversation.
But this is the timeline that I choose to play out. So, in that respect, I guess I displayed an example of setting off on an intuitive cruise on my e-bike,
Right.
and arriving in a shaded, nice location and becoming a part of something interesting and possibly awakening to others that feel like there's something more,
Yeah.
but they just can't put their finger on it. And the sciences won't explain it.
Right. So let's address that person. So let's say somebody's listening and they are that person that thinks there's something more. What do you have to say to that person that says maybe there is something more? What do you say to them?
Well, I would probably remain silent.
Remain silent.
Yeah, because silence in the same area, I'm interconnecting it with that area of curiosity. It's so much potential. There's so much potential. Before you make a decision, before you say it, what you perceive to be a truth, if you stop right before that moment and explore all the vast opportunities and possible outcomes in that area,
Right.
then it really opens a floodgate of sort of different, like you said, a branching effect
Yeah.
in possible outcomes. Now, like, did I expect to be on a podcast today? No. But am I surprised? No,
Right.
because it is aligned with my intuitive nature.
And it's a possibility. It's always a possibility.
Yeah.
Man, so it's so interesting. I'm hung up on the curiosity thing because it's part of a project that I'm working on. I want to tap into that
Okay.
phenomenon. I believe it's one of the most powerful things that human beings experience. I believe it's one of the emotions that have shaped the world we live in. I believe that every innovation that's ever been created, the airplane, internet, everything that we enjoy has really been rooted in curiosity, seeing what could be accomplished. And man, I'm so glad you just brought that up.
Yeah. So that is really where I hunker down. I'm really an explorer of paradox.
Okay. So help me understand how you first got into computers at a young age and then how it developed into quantum computing.
Well, so it started off just at school. Of course, we had computers, but we would just play pranks on the teachers and different things. When we were kids, we didn't really understand what it was called, but I think the term is hacking.
Right.
But we weren't doing anything incredibly malicious.
Right.
We would just maybe override certain parameters on Microsoft documents or different things of this nature just to have fun and tinker. So it really started off there, and then exploring the underlying code of the what you see as a graphical user interface, a GUI or GUI in a computer nerdy term.
Right.
You just call it a GUI, graphical user interface. But I was curious as to how is that graphical user interface designed? So, throughout the years, I was just fascinated with computers, and they're almost, I mean, even in a binary sense, there's no way to really say there's a limit. I mean, in terms of if you want to be creative and switch code around and change your user interface, your GUI. But that really was something that always held close to me. I've always had access to a computer to be able to tinker
Right.
on the computer and see, oh, what can I do? Oh, cool. All right.
So how did you learn it?
I think that it was just a hobby. It was kind of like if you were a kid and you got good at rollerblading, maybe the times instead of rollerblading, I would sit at the computer and see, oh, what can I get a hold of?
I would imagine for myself though, because I'm not a tech guy. I've made websites on Wix and stuff like that,
cool.
just drag and drop stuff, but
Yeah.
nothing tech. But I imagine with something like rollerblading or skateboarding, you could just get on a skateboard and start pushing, and then when you fall down, you figure out where you lost your balance. But when it comes to something like coding, I don't even know what to do or where to start. Now I could YouTube it, but if we're talking 20 years ago, how did you even know where to start? Was there another nerd you knew?
Yeah, so 20 years ago, the internet was quite different. There wasn't as secure protocols as these days. And talk about secure protocols, that's where AI, quantum computing, can come in very, very handy. But it would be, I mean, thousands to thousands, if not millions of years that it would take binary system to crack encryption on a quantum computer, if it could ever.
And you say this is something that you believe that everybody in the future will be taking part in, whether they know it or not?
They may already be.
Wow. Wow. I have a rather broad question. I'm kind of curious where your mind goes.
Sure.
What do you think is the most impactful issue that the world could solve with the least amount of resources? Essentially, the easiest problem to solve that would impact the most people.
Energy.
Energy?
Yeah.
Would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't come from the current understanding of the technologies that are presented to the human masses.
Right.
Now, are there certain factions that know of alternate energy sources and don't display that to the world or share that information, I do not know. But I know that there's, in the next decade alone, 3, 4 decades out, you're going to see a transition into dimensional energy forms, interdimensional energy forms.
Interdimensional energy forms.
Uh-huh.
Wow. So I am completely lost on that, brother.
Okay, well,
like
so so there's videos of pilots in the Air Force, and the United States government has filmed these crafts that they can't explain the velocities that they reach over 1,000 miles per hour, and can just do things that aren't physically possible with the systems that we have for propulsion now. Possibly what they're seeing is sort of a blip or an overlay of a craft that doesn't necessarily come from the jet propulsion systems that we create now.
Right.
I'm not saying that those are bad. Those are actually pretty cool.
But something different, nonetheless.
Yeah, it's just a little different. Perhaps in this quantum realm, there's ways to access different kinds of energy sources, as opposed to our traditional thinking linear path time.
So
you have to collect sun and a solar panel, store it onto a battery, and then use that energy later. And it's a very cause and effect relationship. It takes certain kinds of material and time to charge the battery in a linear perspective. But I'm just saying, possibly, just like throughout the history of humanity already, how we've seen stepping stones to new energy sources and how to utilize those energy sources via gasoline car engines, electric motors, etc. This is only another stepping stone. I mean, this is not it. If anyone thinks that, then they can just recall the history of humanity.
Yeah.
It speaks for itself.
Full of innovation, full of
surprises.
surprises.
Now, can I give you a device that's an interdimensional device that'll charge your phone indefinitely? No. But
I thought you were about to hand me a
yeah,
device.
here you go.
Like,
you're like blip. You're like, wait, which year is this?
Yeah.
Wait, is this
So,
2060?
I got a question then for more clarity, I guess.
Sure.
And I've never heard this perspective. Now, I've heard plenty of people say that time necessarily isn't linear. Now, what about something else like aware, location? Can our perception of where we are in the universe be nonlinear as well, or is that
Sure.
even linear?
Sure, absolutely, and that's where meditative states or altered states,
Right.
can really show you or dissolve the veil of the linear time path.
Gotcha.
You have different mythical icons that represent various different forms of this ideology of infinite consciousness. So there's afterlives,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of religious and cultural stories from the past. Let's say they weren't far off.
Right.
Okay, and it's like they're speaking the same thing. They're saying the same thing, right?
Mhm.
Like, this isn't it.
Right.
This is not the end. And of course, I'm a believer of this.
Yeah. So I'm super curious then too. So I'll start or preface this by saying that when it comes to religion and things like that and creation, I'm just I'm a hopeful agnostic. I have
Yeah.
no idea what's going on. I hope it's something cool, but as far as that I'm absolutely certain on, there's not much that I'm certain on.
That's good perspective. That's that curiosity vector
Yeah.
that has a lot of potential, because that doesn't. What's good about that is that you're not condensing your thought forms into one standard thinking ideology.
Yeah, I want to learn about it all.
And and that's fine to learn about it all, but in the end you find out that it is speaking the same language.
Right.
So, through various different methods or icons or archetypal figures.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that where you remain is such a good space. I think your podcast is cool.
Thank you.
I thought so for a very long time.
For a very long time. Well, I think it's the second episode. Well, technically 4. Sometimes I ramble by myself, but we started doing a language podcast. I have a co-host in Colombia. We did 120 episodes. I was teaching him English, and he was teaching me Spanish. And it's all foundational work for a universal sign language we're creating.
Yo hablo español poquito, pero absolutamente terrible. Y también inglés.
¿Has visitado otros países para practicar, no?
See, you already lost me, guys.
I'm saying, have you visited other countries?
I haven't yet.
Wow.
But of course, that is going to be one of the timelines that I choose to write out.
Yeah. I highly recommend Colombia. I know it's in the news a lot for being dangerous, but I met some really cool people down there and some beautiful places. I'm about to go to. It's funny, every time I say the word Armenia, people are like, you mean Armenia? But there's like an Armenia in Colombia, and that's where I'm going.
You're just like, yeah, whatever.
Well, like every time I say the word Armenia, like I always have to preface that because like, you mean Armenia? I was like, Armenia is pronounced Armenia. Armenia is pronounced Armenia.
That is hilarious. Man, I like those boots.
Bro,
cool.
I love these things. I wear them all the time. I got it for like $25-$30 at Target. That's a hell of a timeline.
Comfortable too. Yeah, hell of a timeline.
Yeah.
And then what's the thing that sparked your curiosity within curiosity?
So, number one, I'm just curious by nature. And I just think that tapping into curiosity, because I realize the power of it, like I said, I think it's the catalyst for every innovation that we enjoy today. And I just want to be able to utilize it and leverage it for the project that I'm working on. We want to create a framework for global communication. We think it's possible, and we want to use curiosity as a tool to make it happen.
I like that. Well, if you guys would like any help, of course. That sounds interesting to me.
What about it interests you? So, and it's kind of interesting too. But
what interests me is that is my interest. Paradox, curiosity, the underlying fabric of reality, the unlimited potentials.
You want me to expand on it? Because I can yap about it for sure.
Yeah.
So I would say that our thesis, because we'll hit pushback on all kinds of things. It's too hard, it's too this, it's too that. But our thesis that we don't budge on is that communication at a rudimentary level is an absolute necessity. It's a foundational need for society to exist, or civilization better to exist, but it hasn't been met at a global scale. I say all the time that if we were in China or Saudi Arabia or some other country on another side of the world, most of the world couldn't say one singular word. We couldn't say, help, I broke my leg, help, call my wife. We have absolutely nothing. And what we're trying to say is that with the tools we have, it's absurd that we haven't established the most basic rudimentary level of communication. Mm-hmm. And we're going to create a catalyst to make it happen. We're going to create a framework.
I love that. I'm all about that framework.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because there is a written and spoken international auxiliary language called Esperanto. I'm not sure if you heard of that.
I've never heard of it.
So Esperanto is an incredible language, and it's very, very easy to learn, but it does have a lot of criticism because it's Eurocentric. The language, I mean, it looks just like all the love languages in Spanish, and it's really hard to argue against it because it's true. It does have tons of root words, and it looks nothing like Mandarin, it looks nothing like Arabic, and that's a real criticism that we have to overcome. So after learning that for quite some time, I was like, man, what if we could just have something to level the playing field? And that's why I wanted to create an international sign, because sign language isn't universal. And that's, we want to build and create a universal sign language to level the playing field.
That is very, very cool.
But yeah, and one of the first things that we did, as soon as we came up with this idea, we went out to Virginia Beach and Norfolk, and we were just walking up to people demonstrating signs, and we would show them words written in Chinese, Mandarin, Hindi, all these other languages. And I was like, hey, can you tell me what this word means? And they would say, no. I was like, what about this word in Arabic? They're like, nope, not at all. I have nothing. And I was like, okay, can you tell me what this means? And they're like, walking. And I was like, yeah. And then I would show them like 3 or 4 of the signs, and they would know what they were. I was like, we have hundreds of signs that you could recognize.
This is it.
I was like, yeah, there's hundreds of signs and you could recognize immediately. And
just by intuition.
Yeah, and we're gonna I would say carefully select which signs we're going to include in the first set and use it as
How
a
many
tool.
will you release, do you think, in the first phase?
So it depends. I think we would have more attention, and it would have a bigger impact if we had a small amount that everyone agreed on.
What do you think, maybe 100?
I was thinking less.
50?
I
Less.
depends on. I would say 50, because 50 you can
50
create
most, 50 at the most.
50 at the most for everyone to agree on, because for me to try and, because I really have plans to go to Asia, to go to Turkey, to go to South America and do this. I have people in place to go down there and meet. It's all about making sure I have everything in place to go do it. But I think it'd be a harder ask to get people to agree on 200 or 1,500 or something like that.
Yeah,
but 50,
50 is manageable. I think that's good for first phase initiation.
and the cool part is it's enough to hit every part of speech. It's enough to create full sentences, and it's also enough to break down some rules in the structure, like how we describe places, how we describe actions and intensity and things like that. I think it's exciting.
No, there is. And I don't know where I could help, but if you ever think of me, of course, you can always get a hold of me. Like, Hutch, we need to figure out this, or run a computer simulation or something of this nature.
We were trying to build an app at some point, but we just realized it wasn't really a priority right away.
Not right
Because
away, not right away.
because
Get
we
the-
need more
yeah.
people to care first.
Yeah,
And
those will be your nodes in the future.
Yeah.
That'll all interconnect with it. Of course, you stabilize, you get your first 50. Of course, that'll be on your out, and so forth and so on. But I think that's really neat.
I appreciate that.
Communication, language itself. Speaking on that matter, I think it's very limiting, in my opinion, because of the reason that I said it's easy to talk about this or that, or yes or no, in a human, like, let's take
In a binary
English, in a binary logical form. It works for consistency with reality.
Mhm.
It's very, very effective and efficient.
It works
Incredible.
within our current construct. It works.
Bingo. However, to expand it, we've really got to stop collapsing ideas into false truths with statements or thinking patterns that are attached to those statements, and vice versa, or interwoven with one another, more so. But I'll give you an example of a statement, and it makes me cringe when I say it. And I've got so many examples, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
I've heard people just say this, or I'm only human. These are limiting statements, and they attach to your thinking patterns and your ability to observe what you actually live in. A beautifully entangled, multi-dimensional, quantum experience that transcends any idea that you had of your so-called perceivable Earth human reality.
And it's wild to even say that. Yeah, I'm only human. When that is, like, in itself, one of the most absurd realities that exist. Being human is is incredible.
It is a
in
neat
itself.
thing. It's got great reverence within, I'd say, other perceivable types of simulations. If you ran them, humans can taste chocolate. They can smell beautiful perfumes or colognes. They can feel the sun on their skin. They can have the feeling of love, which can't be explained in a scientific lab, but we know that all of us have it.
Yeah.
We know this feeling. Like, I love my cat.
Right.
I love his fur. I love petting him. I just love him. And now that can't really be put into a scientific lab and measured. But anything unmeasurable in current scientific constructs gets demonized. So therefore, there's a limit or a cap attached to the language variable as well. That's very limiting. There's a lot of obstructions, or let's say hurdles, to jump on the path or trajectory to full understanding, or in Eastern philosophy, they would say enlightenment.
Wow. There's so much knowledge that just dropped in the past 15, 20 minutes we've been talking. I don't even know how long it's been. Maybe it's been 20 minutes. Who knows?
Yeah.
Why even measure time?
Well, because I have to work.
Wait.
But yeah, I would like to be a guest on your podcast again.
Yeah.
and it was nice to meet you. I'm Hutch.
Levi.
Levi.
Yeah.
Love that name.
Yeah. How
Levi.
would you like to get in contact? I have Instagram and emails and businesses, however you want to contact.
Well, so I don't get a bunch of fan mail. Let's cut
Oh.
the mic.